Welcome back to Gym Challenge number 6, Halloween Weekend Edition. I'm Dennis Geisler. I'm joined by my good friend Giratina, getting ready for an eventual restricted metagame. We're going to get into round number 4 of Swiss. It's David Huttner versus Abigail Watson. Abigail bringing the Landorus Therian, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Iron Hands Amoonguss, Tornadus Incarnate, and Golden Go. David with the Ogerpon Wellspring, Fluttermane, Landorus Therian, King Gambit, Iron Hands, and Chiyu. Some Pokemon I feel like we haven't seen a lot of too much lately. Not a whole lot of Amoonguss lately, not a whole lot of Chiyu lately. Have not seen an Iron Hands on stream all day. I feel like we're going to see that change in this battle. Iron Hands, one of the best Pokemon in Regulation E, and I think we'll probably see it pretty soon. But in any case, some similar, not super similar. Not very similar at all teams, actually. They just both have Landorus Therian and Iron Hands, which is very common. Two very great Pokemon in this current Regulation E. And here we go, underway for round number 4, Swiss round number 4. We're getting into crunch time here for some of these battlers. It's 5 rounds of Swiss before Top Cut, 8 players Top Cut. And away we go. The Fluttermane Chiyu for David, and Abigail will send out Urshifu and Tornadus, the Regulation D duo we all know and love. Fluttermane Chiyu do have some good damage that they're threatening here. It is the Speed Booster Energy from the Fluttermane. That will be very fast, very hard to outspeed, even through a Tailwind. For that Urshifu, which is the Mystic Water. Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet, as always, with that Protect. Chiyu's going to switch out. That is a very scary bear. I wouldn't want to fight it either. Ogerpon going to switch in, will take a Water Hit, if that's the option, into that slot. Surging Strikes does target the Fluttermane, and that should be bye-bye to Fluttermane. Hit number 2. And swingy hit number 3. Goodbye, Fluttermane. Ring the bell, one-hit KO for the Urshifu for Abigail. And that'll be an early knockout in turn number 1. Does mean now that close combat, it's not really a good option here for the Urshifu. Ogerpon can follow me to prevent any further shenanigans from the Urshifu, any further damage. It also means that Landorus, if it's not a follow me, well, if you follow me into the Ogerpon and then you pick close combat to actually do damage to it, then does not take a lot of damage. Also spiky shield. Urshifu's going to protect, see what the decision is. Landorus did already drop its attack as well. Landorus will protect as well. That is a clear amulet, Landorus Therian. Not one we've seen a whole lot of. Onto the Ogerpon Wellspring, so it won't be able to follow me after this turn. And it will Ivy Cudgel anyways, targeting the Tornadus. Pretty decent damage, about half of its HP. But now, no follow me available. Outlander is very threatened by the Surging Strikes now from the Urshifu. I had to like adjust my headset and my cloak a couple of times. I want to make sure I have the ears out, but like I have to also speak into a microphone. Very difficult situation. Terastallization used, I believe that's David there. Going to Terra Water that Ogerpon Wellspring. It'll boost the special defense by 1 stage. And turn it into a pure water type. Surging Strikes into the Landorus. That is certainly going to take that down. That's 2 knockouts now for the Urshifu. And after a moment, we'll see the decision. Tornado's just going to Bleak Windstorm. Little bit of damage into the Ogre Pawn. Not going to do too much. Does drop the speed. Could be useful if this Tailwind is ever down. Woodhammer, one-hit knockout onto the Urshifu. The Urshifu is down. A lot of damage back onto that Ogre Pawn, but definitely to an extent did its job. Got that out of the way, and now most of the damage remaining is from that Iron Hands coming in now for Abigail. And Chiyu going to come back out for David. No longer being threatened by that Urshifu, but at the same time, have to be afraid of Iron Hands. Iron Hands has the standard Iron Hand set, Fake Out, Wild Charge, Drain Punch, Heavy Slam with the Assault Vest, going to be very bulky. Not going to take much damage against either of these Pokemon. Ogre Pawn will take that Bleak Windstorm barely. Drops the speed once more. Chiyu Overheat. Hold your breath. Not going to knock out the Iron Hands. Does a lot of damage, but not going to get there. And this Drain Punch will certainly take down the Chiyu in return. Just the Ogre Pawn left. Should not be able to get through the rest of this battle. Needs to not take another hit for the entire battle. Ivy Cudgel will come out. And does take down the Iron Hands. I'm trying to see if there's an out here. Pollen Puff should knock out the Ogre Pawn. It is taunt now. Tailwind petered out, but Ogre Pawn is at -2 speed, so it probably won't matter. Actually might still be faster than the Amoonguss. But either way, we need a Bleak Windstorm miss, and it's not. We're not going to try. we're not going to try it. David will forfeit. Game number 1 goes to Abigail very convincingly. A great early battle with the Urshifu. Getting a couple of early knockouts and moving forward in that one. Curious to see if they decide to switch anything up. David obviously struggled a little bit in the early parts of that battle. Ogre Pawn was the option to try to... This Ogre Pawn Wellspring is a very good counter to the Urshifu Rapid Strike because it wants to use water moves in almost every scenario, and Water Absorb is such a good answer to that. But at the same time, you just don't target the Ogre Pawn with the water moves, then you're pretty much fine. And that is basically what Abigail did. Not see Golden Go or Landorus in that last battle. David's has Protect instead of U-Turn to go with the Clear Amulet instead of the Choice Scarf. Seen a lot of that Choice Scarf Landorus lately. It's such a good set. It's able to do so much, give you so much value. So much coverage in that setup there. And in any case, we are going to get into game number 2. Abigail and David. David's going to lead with Ogre Pawn Landorus this time. Immediately get that drop. And it's Urshifu Amoonguss from Abigail. So a couple of switches for both of these players. Going to be difficult for Urshifu to get much done here, as it can't Surging Strikes if Ogre Pawn is around to follow me. David, meanwhile, has a couple of options on what to target. Could try to early Terrastalize. Both these Pokemon are good Terrastal targets on David's side. Urshifu will switch out. Be the Landorus coming in, so we'll drop the attack of both these Pokemon by a stage. Except the Clear Amulet. Forgot about that. Nice counterattack a little bit, I would say. Follow me. No Terrastal this turn. Rock Slide comes out. Tiny bit of damage onto both those Pokemon. Amoonguss flinches. I believe it was going for the Spore anyway. Don't hold me to that, but I believe it was going to the Spore anyway, which wouldn't have done anything to the Ogre Pawn, but in any case. Two Landoruses looking at each other. An Ogre Pawn and an Amoonguss standing around as well. The Ogre Pawn will switch out. Switch out into the Iron Hands. We'll see the Iron Hands on David's side for the first time today. Same set. That will be the Terastallization, the Terra Flying Landorus, as we love to see on Abby's side, I believe. And David will do the exact same thing. Two Terra Flying Landoruses looking at each other. Abby's is the faster one, so she will have the priority here if they are both attacking each other. Terra Blast comes out. It will target the Iron Hands. It'll do neutral damage and does a little bit under half of its HP there. Terra Blast on David's side targets the Amoonguss, and that should do a bunch of damage. It is the knockout onto that Amoonguss. Landorus will pick up the knockout there. Very happy Pokemon on David's side. Now a choice to make here for Abigail. Switch in the more supportive or the more offensive Pokemon. It will be the Tornadus coming in. Two Genies hanging out once again. They are such good friends. And now, decisions to make for both of these players. Will be Abigail's Landorus switching out. Urshifu coming in. Urshifu is threatened pretty heavily. We'll take a fake out from Iron Hands. That doesn't matter too much. Rain Dance comes down, so this will be a very strong Urshifu, but not against Ogre Pawn, who still sits in the back. Terra Blast comes out, and it will focus the Urshifu, which will get knocked out by that hit. A rough play there, a rough turn for Abigail. That'll lose the Urshifu basically for free. Rain Dance comes up, but it doesn't mean too much. It'll mean the Bleak Wind Storm can't miss. Iron Hand's now at -1. Clear Amulet means that the other Landorus will not lose any health there, or won't lose any attack there. Abigail will lock her own Landorus into whatever she decides to go for here. David certainly taking his time. It's not a locked Landorus, it is Clear Amulet, so it has the opportunity to switch moves, but that Terra Blast is a good option. Rock Slide is also a pretty solid option here against two flying types, two pure flying types that it's looking at. Stomping Tantrum from Abigail's. It will pick up the knockout onto the Iron Hands. That'll beat Boop out. Terra Blast from the other Landorus. It'll just keep launching out those flying attacks. Hits into the Tornadus. About 2/3 of its health, but not going to finish it off. Bleak Wind Storm. About half the HP out of that Landorus. And critical turn here. It is the Flutter Mane coming out. David still has actually had all 4 of his Pokemon going into that turn. The Flutter Mane coming out here. The extra fast. Now a difficult decision here to make. You Tailwind to beat that Flutter Mane? You do indeed. Tailwind plus the Choice Scarf should outspeed the Flutter Mane. And there it goes, but not enough damage. And once the Tornadus is out of the way, that should be the battle. Stomping Tantrum cannot hit Landorus on David's side, and that means that Abigail does not have any damage remaining in this battle, which should send us to a game number 3. Landorus barely takes that hit, but yeah, there's no way Abigail can win that one. Game number 3 here in round number 4. We're about to get here. Very nice turnaround there from David. Well played around that Landorus. Did not need to cycle it out at all. That clear amulet able to keep it cooking against the other Landorus even after a couple of switch outs. And that Amoonguss did not really get a whole lot done for Abigail in that battle. Flinched early on, but wasn't going to get much done in general, and just got taken down early by that Landorus Terra Blast. See if the decision's different this time. It was the Urshifu Amoonguss lead in the last one. That Urshifu got absolutely lit up. Had to switch out immediately out of fear, and then got hit by the Terra Blast on the switch. Abigail made the choice pretty quickly on what to go for. David moving a little bit slower. There's pizza over there. I want the pizza, but I have to cast. It's too important. David will continue to take his time in picking. Clearly does not care about this pizza status of any of the three of us. And we'll get game number 3 underway. Round number 4 of Swiss here out of 5 rounds. This is a critical round for both of these players. Getting into crunch time. Getting into the exciting battles as well. It's Landorus Iron Hands for David. And Abigail, it's Iron Hands and Amoonguss. So that Iron Hands for Abigail will be dropped to -1 attack. In a moment. Just wait it. And Amoonguss not going to be stopped from sporing if it wants to do so, other than by a big scary Landorus who will do a lot of damage to it. That Landorus will switch out anyways. We'll cycle out that damage. Ogerpon will be the one to come in, so if the Spore was targeted into the Ogerpon spot, then it won't do anything. But it fakes out the Amoonguss anyway, so it's fine. And Ogerpon will be faked out. So not really much of anything happens. Now a more important turn. Ogerpon going to be able to follow me to stop the Spore threat, but does potentially invite a Pollen Puff into it if it goes for that follow me. Iron Hands will switch out. It will be the Landorus coming back in. Iron Hands down to -2 now. Half attack stat. Basically the same as if it was burned. Amoonguss doesn't care about its attack. Ogerpon uses Follow Me up against that Spore once again. It will draw in the Drain Punch, which does very little damage at this point. And the Spore, which does not affect the Ogerpon. Very nice turn there from David. Maintaining a lot of the initiative, but not really doing a ton of damage yet. Now we'll see. David has all the opportunity here to do damage. This is the important damage turn, I think. Iron Hands likely to switch out at -2. Probably don't want to leave it out there too much longer. Meanwhile, the Amoonguss at large threat of another Terra Blast from the Landorus. But if you can bait out the Terra, you can potentially play around a little bit. The Ogerpon will switch out. The Iron Hands will now come in. Unshiny Iron Hands. Abigail's Iron Hands will leave as well. And bring in the Tornadus. Potentially try to Temple Set a little bit. It is the Scouting Protect from Landorus. We'll wait out a potential Spore. Amoonguss protects as well. And now we get into this turn here. Nothing happened in that previous turn except for a couple switches. But now a potentially critical turn again. Abigail doesn't have a ton of damage that she's showing on the field right now. David is showing much more damage at the present. Iron Hands will come back out for Abigail. Now at its full happy attack. Landorus will Terrastalize. It finally goes for it. That Terraflying Terra Blast that everyone is so afraid of. Now about to come out. Terra Blast. Into the Iron Hands. Does a little bit under half of its HP. Bleak Wind Storm comes out. Hits both. Does not get a speed drop on either. Wild Charge finishes off the Tornadus. No Rain Dance, no Tailwind achieved there by Abigail's Tornadus. And not too much damage onto either of these Pokemon just yet. Amoonguss will come out. Amoonguss has the opportunity to Spore, but what can it Spore? What can it do? It's in serious threat of a Terra Blast. Ogerpon will come back out, try to prevent a Spore that would have been heading towards that Iron Hand spot. Oh, it's just going to protect. Landorus will protect anyways. So Iron Hand's Fake Out will not do anything. And the Amoonguss will Pollen Puff into the Iron Hands, heal that up quite a bit. Maintain the HP there. It will fully heal it. Really nice for Abigail there, keeping the Iron Hands healthy. Now a big question here. Can you take the greedy hit with the Landorus? Do you want to switch out and try to get the Iron Hands? Cycle that Iron Hands Intimidate? Do you follow me with Ogerpon in order to try to draw in the Spore? And for Abigail, what do you do? Do you try to hit one of these two with the Iron Hands? Wild Charge will do a good amount of damage to each of these two. You also want to make sure that your Amoonguss can stay up and running. Will be the Terastal here. That Amoonguss is Terra Dark. Decent typing, but also prevents the Prankster, anything Prankster, from hitting it. Rage Powder. Nothing to stop it from coming down. The Wood Hammer will do more damage. Ignores the Rage Powder because of the Grass type. Stomping Tantrum is the decision. And it will not anywhere close to finish that Amoonguss off. It will get taken down by the Wild Charge from the Iron Hands. There goes the Terastal on David's side. That Amoonguss pretty healthy through all of it. The Iron Hands reasonably healthy through all of it. They will just keep sitting and cooking. David's Iron Hands will come out now. Little bit healthier than Abigail's, but with no Pollen Puff to potentially boost it up. Nothing doing too much damage here. The Wood Hammer into the Iron Hands. Not going to pick up the KO. Barely takes the hit. Iron Hands Drain Punch aimed into the Amoonguss, and it will pick up the KO there. This Iron Hands goes for a Wild Charge. It will knock itself out, but it could potentially knock out the Ogerpon in return. The Terra Dark Amoonguss barely did its job. Wasn't too important in this scheme of things. Wild Charge does pick up the KO onto the Ogerpon. Will knock out itself in return. Goodbye, Iron Hands. And that will mean, by my quick math, it'll be Urshifu versus 2. It's King Gambit as the final Pokemon here. And that is Defiant King Gambit. It's not a Supreme Overlord. It's not going to gain any strength from the Fallen. And now it is just this Urshifu trying to battle its way through these last two fighters. Surging Strikes. Not too much damage onto this Iron Hands. Does a little chunk. But Iron Hands will stay up. And Iron Hands will Wild Charge. Not going to pick up the KO just yet. David, Kowtow Cleaves, and that will finish it off. David Huttner with a very exciting 2-1 victory over Abigail Watson in round number 4. Real close battle between these two the entire time. Got to see a lot of what these Pokemon had to bring. We got to see the Amoonguss provide a decent amount of value through the rest of it, although we also got to see why the Amoonguss isn't all that popular anymore. Landorus is on either side. It looked like the Landorus with the clear amulet, not the Choice Scarf, actually came out ahead in that one-on-one matchup. A little bit surprising based on how much Choice Scarf we've seen lately. In any case, we will take a quick break. We'll be back for the 5th and final round of Swiss. Do not go anywhere. Things are getting exciting.